In response to the TED Talk, it was made in 2014, and he predicts how the healthcare system would be in 2024. A few of the things he says how we'll change how we pick doctors, which I thoroughly agree with. I don't think the education system is set up very well to pick the people who are best for the job. I think it was set up in kind of with an industrial mindset that we could pump out the best students the fastest we can. But I think we can get to a better state where we wouldn't have to do it that way. Also, he talks about them using skills to sharpen them using techniques to sharpen observation skills. I think this is something that's super underrepresented, especially in the medical community, as in most of the people are trained to just become workhorses and memorize things. Another thing he talks about that I really enjoy is the new positions that he thinks they should have. The first one being probability experts. I believe probability experts just makes the most sense. Me personally, as a nuclear engineer, we do most things using probability calculations. And the thing with probability calculations is they let you get a numerical value on something that may or may not work, and it could have too many variables to boil down to an exact mechanism. So it makes sense to just come up with probabilities, and especially when it comes to people's health, they should be able to see what they're getting themselves into. Also, he brings up electronic healthcare ambassadors and telehealth professionals. So for me, it always weirded me out that I felt like the healthcare system kind of had it backwards. You would think they would be on the cutting edge of technology in electronics, information moving, keeping everything in order. I find it weird that the doctors have to ask you every time you go there which your family history and all of that. It just seems like it could be a lot more efficient. Also, talking about communication, the thing that I never even understood as a child is A, why do doctors have such bad handwriting? And B, why wouldn't we just have them start typing things out so we absolutely know it's legible? And it's got to pass through least amount of hands, and you could have a digital trail rather than maybe losing paper or something. I forgot what the numbers are, but I'm pretty sure I've heard somewhere how there is way more than you expect people who die each year due to literally just bad handwriting from prescriptions that doctors have written, because either they don't have enough time because things are scheduled poorly or just a lack of caring. And speaking of the scheduling being boring, I've heard from multiple other places how doctors are overbooked and schedules are overlapped, and I just don't get why they wouldn't have a system. I don't know. I feel like they could easily just code an app to where where patients are, in what room, how long they've been waiting. You could have back to probability statistics. The probability of what symptoms the patient has could tell you how long the meeting is probably going to take. Or if you have one patient that's usually more long-winded and one more short, you should be able to have all those statistics and factor that into your scheduling to make it more convenient. The other thing I think about this a lot is the genome chip, because I feel like we're going to start understanding how many things are dependent on our genetics and how much variability there is from person to person in how medications work, and also especially with nutrition. I kind of understand that this isn't there yet because we are just starting to get a grasp on sequencing the genome and things of that nature. But it seems that this is kind of inevitable, that more personalized healthcare would make more sense. And back to probability, we would just get an increasing amount of data on it. Therefore, we could lower our standard deviation and be more accurate. I also think, along that note, I think it makes sense that we would have personal health people who we as citizens could go to get all of our health needs at one place, so to say, especially when it comes to eating. If you had a DNA test, you could go in and see what foods you're susceptible to be able to consume well, what your body can use efficiently, what kind of exercise might be the best for you, get your blood work and know your blood deficiencies. It just seems like, as an average person, it's very overwhelming to take in all those confounding variables. It would be nice to have somewhere where we could go and get all of that taken care of in one place. On the fact of, are we closer or further away, I would like to think that we're getting closer due to the fact that there's people like this guy out there giving these TED Talks, and I feel like there's a lot of rational people that want to do good things, but I haven't really seen anything to show that that's the case. Now, as for the current administrations, I feel like the current administration isn't necessarily playing a negative role, but I feel like they really could be playing a much positive role. And I'm talking about this from the point of view of advancing the healthcare system and the efficiency of it rather than the amount of people who get care. I feel like I agree with the current administration's idea that we shouldn't need to be spending as much, but I feel like where they lose me in the argument is where they just say we shouldn't be spending as much, so we just cut it and then that's it. I think our scope should be and our goal should be to make it more efficient, to try and get more done. And just as you listen to this video and how most people would say is there is a lot of gaps that we can close up. There's a lot of things that we could do more efficient, and I think that would lead to spending less, and therefore the current administration would get what they want, which is tax cuts which they could get the tax cuts, but their whole framing of the situation, I think, is a little bit off. And I think kind of where the compromise lacks comes from them not really wanting to do anything and just wanting to preach about tax cuts. And also the left kind of use the approach that if you're against anything in the health industry, that you don't care about people's health. And I think that just promotes tribalism, and that's really not the most accurate portrayal of the other people's or of the other side's ideologies. I think most of the other side just believe that people who don't really need the help are taking advantage of the system. With that being said, I think that's a lot less of a problem than the people who do need the help not being able to use the system. But the mischaracterization of the right's point of view just turns the right against them more and makes them double down. As soon as you tell someone that they don't care about people, the rest of your argument, especially when most people do care about people receiving the treatment they need, as soon as you tell them that they don't, you lose credibility to the rest of your argument.